This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.
That's number one. You kind of reset your
Painful, tender to the touch. May also
same shoulder length, and the other.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. I'm Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor, and Brandy Rashidian is my other half co-host and the person whose name comes first in our podcast. It's called Brandy and Amir.
It is?
Yeah, it's good. Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. Your name comes first.
Oh, that's so nice. I never realized.
But I introduced myself first.
Wow.
So it's fair that way.
Sure.
Your name comes first, but I introduced me first. I can introduce you next.
Happy day. It's a good day.
It's a good day.
But boy, we have some more weather headed our way, I hear.
Yeah,
That's
and
gonna be fun.
I'm nervous about this weekend.
You should be.
I'm doing something I've never done before.
Yes.
What am I doing?
He is officiating his first wedding. Well, it's not his wedding, but he's officiating
A wedding.
a wedding for the first
For
time.
the first time, yeah.
So I'd like to introduce Reverend Amir.
It's minister.
Oh, minister.
Yeah, I got ordained.
So cool.
Yeah, so, all right. Well, that's that.
I thought you were sitting a little higher on your seat today.
I'm floating. I'm levitating. Yeah, so that's
long as you
pretty
don't start
scary
walking on
because
water.
this is like someone's special day.
Yeah, I know. Don't mess it up.
Exactly.
That would suck.
They could ruin this like terribly.
So Marisol and Doug, we're sorry in advance. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. You can say that about weddings, right? They're
It's-
supposed to be fun. It's a
They're-
joyous
They're
occasion.
supposed to. It's a celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, of
Yep.
course, it's a celebration where people cry.
I know.
If
They're
that makes
tears of
sense.
joy. Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a fun weekend.
It will be. Yeah.
And tomorrow, I get to go and decorate 500 sugar cookies.
That sounds healthy.
Yeah, I'm not going to eat all of them, but I am hoping one breaks in my hand. Just one.
You don't have to pay for it if it breaks.
No, I think I've paid my dues in like,
No. You break it, you pay for it. You break it, you buy it. Isn't that the rule?
no, I break it, I eat it. That's the rule.
We have a saying in chiropractic: if it ain't broke, it's probably misaligned.
That's a Cairo joke. Most people aren't going to laugh at that.
No one's laughing.
Yeah, I'm laughing.
You
but
laugh.
Sean, was that a funny one?
No. All right. Never mind. They do tell me not to quit my day job. So, Real Health Podcast is produced by the Frederick Podcast Network, found on listenfrederick.com. Please visit the site. And also, you can find us on all the video platforms and so on. Real Health Podcast is where we like to take all the latest information in health and wellness, what you find in mainstream news and media, and we read it for you, summarize it, explain it, discuss it from a wellness, non-drug, non-surgical standpoint. And our purpose is to help you feel better, get stronger, live longer, and if you want, feel younger.
Yes.
They tell me not to say that last part, but it's a habit now. It just comes out. Feel
I
younger.
still can't say it all together
Okay.
in the right order, in the right way.
We can, that's why your name comes first, and I introduce you, so because I can say that.
I had
Our
this
first-
song going through my head. Can I just tell you?
A song
Yeah.
that never happens.
It's a Salt and Pepper song too.
Oh no.
And whenever I look at these worm articles, that's what goes through my head. So I've replaced a word in their song that starts with S to a word that starts with W. So now it's let's talk about worms. So that's what's going on in my head. Sean and I have been talking about parasites all morning long.
Yeah. So and I grew up in Iran, which like I think there's more common to have parasites there.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I think it's mostly sanitation. Their toilets are different, especially now. Now everyone has like
More
toilets
Western
like
toilets.
Western, yeah. But when I was growing up, nobody. I mean, we had one in our house
Thank goodness.
from way back, but we also had the old type, which is a hole in the ground.
Yes.
It's a porcelain hole in the ground. You squat
And-
and you go.
So there are some things about that are very natural. You go, okay, if you're going out in the woods, that's
Yeah.
a normal, right,
Yeah.
position to be in. When we were traveling, though, I will tell you, because for those of you who don't know, I've been to Iran multiple times. And so the first time we went, we traveled around the country a lot. And we'd go to all these tourist spots, and you'd have to go to the bathroom at some point. So in the nice hotels, they had Western toilets. In some of the nice restaurants, they'd have Western toilets. But in like side of the road places or like just regular tourist spots, you did not have that privilege. And so, and you're dressed differently because like I had to have a scarf on that like wraps around
awful.
and like a tunic. And then often there wasn't toilet paper. I mean, going to the bathroom when we were
They don't
traveling
have
there.
toilet paper. They use water.
Right. But
There's-
some of the
there-
places did for like
Yeah.
visitors like me.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's like it's basically a like
Hose in a hand.
yeah, it's a hose, but some don't even have a hose. It's like a bucket thing that you fill with water and you pour.
Well, thank goodness that was
On
never
yourself.
on one of the things that bathrooms we went to. But
It looks
it's
like a
challenging.
water pot, watering pot for
Yeah.
plants. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, there were many discussions that I had with like your uncles and stuff. I don't think these are common because everybody grows up just wearing a scarf. Nobody like, I don't know if anybody has these conversations. And I was like, it's really hard to go to the bathroom here when you're out and about. And your uncles are looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, when you're trying and your scarf comes undone and then it falls down and it's a thing. And everybody is looking at me like I'm crazy, but I mean, it was new to me. I've never had those challenges here in the States when
It's
having to go
it's
to the
like a
bathroom.
Halloween costume that you wear every day.
I mean, you don't have to fix your hair.
Of course,
Super
now
great.
there's a lot of protests in Iran. People aren't doing it.
Hmm.
They're fighting it. So all of this came about because of this one thing we talked about last time. We talked about ivermectin.
Mhm.
2 episodes we talked about ivermectin, and then because it's a drug for parasites,
Mhm.
it's an anti-parasitic. We decided to look into parasites and
Yes.
figure out what's going on with that and why is an anti-parasitic drug being linked to anti-cancer properties, and people are seeing miraculous changes, and then the research isn't being done. The research that is being done with really low dosages, and they're saying it's ineffective. And then the other research where they're trying to use higher doses, still safe, not toxic doses, below toxic levels, but safe doses, and they want to do specific research on cancer. A lot of these doctors are being rejected for funding. They're asking them to redact and withdraw their hypotheses, and anyway, they're not being approved for their research. So somebody independent is going to have to do that research, maybe with their own personal funding. I don't know. Maybe you should fund their research.
I
But
would love to.
anyways,
Because you know where my brain goes. Because I start going through and I'm like, well, why did they used to do this for everyone? Why aren't they doing this now? Why? So my brain goes all over the place in thoughts as to why we stopped doing things in the medical world. Because there's a lot of experts that go, oh, you know what? Everything's clean. Our sanitation is better. This is better. This is better. So we don't need to test for that. It's not a big issue. And then you have other experts who go, this is a very common source of illness for adults and children. Everyone should be getting dewormed
yeah.
twice a year.
Well, I mean, if an antiparasitic drug does help cancer, which we still don't know for sure, but it seems like it does, then we go either it's because cancer, a strong immune system will destroy cancer, and these drugs may be boosting your immune system or supporting your immune system or acting in place of your immune system to kill these cancer cells, or that there's a parasitic involvement in cancer, in the cancer process that no one's researched or discovered, which I seriously doubt, because cancer and parasites are very separate. The cancer is your own cells growing out of control. Parasites are foreign things that use your body to survive. Very different, but who knows? So anyways, we thought we'd look into parasites and see what it says. And this one article is on Medicine Net. The title is "How Often Should You Deworm?" And I keep thinking about our pets, because pets
Get dewormed.
get dewormed and stuff, but this is actually humans. So worms are a very common source of illness for both adults and children. So experts recommend that deworming should be done 2 times a year or every 6 months, beginning at the age of 2 years.
At the age of 2.
How many times have you been dewormed?
I've never been dewormed.
I got
And
dewormed once.
You did?
This is a gross story. You want to hear a gross story?
Yes. I have a
So
gross
you know
story
how
too.
like you don't remember your whole childhood?
Except for one.
Cause well, no, I remember you have flashes, like you have images
Yeah.
and
You remember
scenes.
moments.
Like one thing I'll never forget is all the penicillin shots I got. I remember
Mm.
every single one of those painful. Anyways, I had a lot of ear infections. That's a different story. This one time, I guess the doctor told my parents that I have parasites. So this is really gross. But I was a little kid and I don't remember the whole thing. But they said we have to do this thing. It was an enema.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally saw little tiny worms in the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Like thousands of them, like squirming in the water. Really disgusting.
That's what Sean and I were afraid of.
Really, really, really disgusting. So is that similar to deworming?
Yeah, that is deworming.
They got it all because most parasites are in your intestines, right? So
Yes.
they basically gave me some stuff to eat and drink, and then they did the enema and got it all out. Thankfully, I if I remember correctly, it was only one time thing, and it was done. Hopefully, they got all of them.
Well, they actually recommend that you should start deworming humans at the age of 2.
Yeah.
Like age of 2. But if you think about it, kids run around in bare feet, right?
Yeah.
In the soil, which is great for you to be barefoot and outside.
In healthy soil.
Right, in healthy soil. However,
If
there's
there's-
still parasites in even healthy soil. There's
and
parasites
they get
everywhere.
there from, according to the article, they get there from human feces.
And it could be animal
So-
feces as well.
Right. Yeah, so that's true. Deworming is the process of eliminating intestinal parasites such as worms using medication. In places where soil-transmitted helminths are prevalent, the World Health Organization advises periodic medication treatment to deworm all children. This suggestion is supported by research suggesting that helminths transferred through soil harm children's growth development as well as their cognitive growth and future economic possibilities.
I mean, here's my biggest issue. And this is what starts making me go, well, then why aren't we doing that? If this is literally an issue and we need to be taking care of kids from the age of 2, how many of you guys just put it in the comments? I've literally never been talked to, and we have a very holistic doctor. I love her. But I've never been talked to about deworming my kids. Has your pediatrician ever once done that? Because I would feel pretty good about saying I would be surprised if anyone's pediatrician has ever given that as a recommendation.
Polio's back in the news, and that thing's been eradicated. But the whole RFK Jr. Hearing, he passed through the first round by a vote of 13-12, I think, or 14-13.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty close. So anyway, so he's like on third base, rounding third base to go to home, and then he'll be head of the Health and Human Services. But anyways, so a lot of the hearing, they were talking about polio.
Yeah.
And they're afraid of getting polio, but like that's the same thing. It's insanitary or condition. I was going to say insane conditions. Unsanitary conditions that would lead to that.
Yeah.
And so we were worried about that, but we're not worried about parasites. Parasites, it says worms are parasites that depend on the human intestine for both nutrition and survival. The worms induce poor nutrition, blood loss, and stunted growth by consuming resources intended for the human body. In some of the world's poorest regions, intestinal worm infections affect more than 2 billion people. Hookworms, roundworm, and whipworm, I wonder if whipworm was the one I had, because those things look like they were whipping around, have been around for a long time. No one's going to look at me the same after that.
I'm not even looking at you the same.
Don't touch me. I don't even know you anymore. You should have told me before we got married.
I feel like I've been duped.
Honestly, I just remembered that. Like that's
so funny.
something I remembered it earlier today. Going, wow, those were parasites.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
the infection spreads when they lay eggs in the human feces that contaminate the soil, a major problem that is common in impoverished countries with poor sanitation. Eggs from this contaminated soil that is found on unwashed vegetables, water sources, or unwashed hands enter the body, causing the intestinal parasite infection. Infected people experience intestinal blood loss due to worms, which results in iron deficiency and malnutrition, as well as lack of energy and motivation. Somebody out there is going, I have lack of motivation and energy. I bet I have a parasite.
Oh, that's very possible.
Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Parasites can live for years in the intestines without causing any problems. When they do, the following symptoms occur. So in the case of hookworm, most children with hookworm infection exhibit no symptoms at all. However, because of bleeding from the gut wall where the worm is attached, and especially when the infection is chronic, it can result in iron shortage and anemia, mild diarrhea and stomach cramps, and itchy red skin rash on the feet where the larva entered the body. Rarely, when the larvae are moving through the lungs become inflamed and cause cough, wheeze, and fever. A decrease in appetite and weight loss may develop several weeks following exposure to this hookworm. Poor nutrition can be brought on by ongoing infections. Then there's roundworm, similar stuff, cough, sleep disturbance, fever, restlessness, severe stomach and abdominal aches, vomiting. What's scary? Wheezing and malnutrition. To tapeworm too, real quick. With tapeworm, nausea, weakness, reduced appetite, diarrhea, dizziness, craving for salt, loss of weight, and insufficient food nutrient absorption. Now, we have like 14,000 patients, right? Over the past 20 years, we've been in business, 19 years. Prior to that, I owned another practice from 2003. So you're looking at 22 years of being in business. 14,000 people I've met, hopefully helped. And so a lot of our patients stay with us long term because chiropractic is a lifestyle and it's a wellness issue. It's a lifestyle wellness, not just crisis care. Yeah, we see some people in crisis, but then we keep them healthy and make sure to prevent future issues and so on. Not once have I heard of a patient get tested for any kind of parasite. Not once. Now, I have patients go get tested for everything and anything else, including allergy testing, where they come back with a list of 30,000 things they're not allowed to eat. But never once parasites.
I know. And here's what's mind-boggling to me. And this is one of the things that light bulbs start going off for me. I go, okay, we literally used to deworm everyone. So even at the beginning of the 1900s, if you were put into the hospital, one of the first things they did was an anti-parasitic. They did that because they knew that no matter what else you were dealing with, they couldn't help you at the same level. Your body would not respond.
Correct.
If you had these parasites.
And it says almost all of these parasites, you have no symptoms.
Right.
No major symptoms.
Correct. And let's all look at the symptoms that are there. They are also the most common symptoms for every other bacteria or viral illness.
How many things have nausea, weakness, vomiting, diarrhea, dizziness, craving salt?
Some of you guys are like, that's the story of my life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, people go, what is IBS? Irritable bowel syndrome. We don't know why your bowels are doing that. Has anyone checked for larvae? Has anyone checked for these parasites?
Why are they irritable? They don't like the president? I mean, they don't like what happened in the stock market today? I mean, they got irritable all of a sudden?
It's like...
Irritable should not be a diagnosis.
Correct. It's a description.
It's a symptom.
It's wild. So those are the things I go, okay, we used to give it to everyone, and then we stopped. For what? Why did we stop? And now, not only do we, although we say it's still a problem, but no one talks about it. And then one of the major anti-parasitic medications, we don't want anybody to have.
And they want a Nobel Prize for inventing it.
I mean, does this not make anyone else's shackles go? I mean, it really does bother me because I go, we know that there's an occupancy rate that hospitals need to keep, right? They need to keep bodies in their beds to make money. So how do you keep people sick? You just think about it. Just think about it.
We're not implying anything. We're just asking questions.
You should all be asking questions.
Yeah. So the drugs are albendazole, which we mentioned in the cancer research, and mebendazole.
Yes. So, and here's some other things. They say, here's what you can do to stop the spread of worm infection. Wash your hands before and after the restroom. Use hygienic restrooms. I don't even know where to go with that. Consume hygienic water. Consume well-prepared food. Wash your fruits and vegetables and salads in sanitary water. Keeping fingernails trimmed and cleaned, and wearing slippers. So these are all recommendations, right? Let's talk about some of the foods that you need to be cautious of. So foods that can contain parasites: meat, raw or undercooked pork, lamb, beef, and wild game. My kids are going to freak out because I'm starting to freak out about pork a lot. I go, we all know it's the one animal that doesn't sweat, so it doesn't excrete toxins. It eats everything. It is not like, there's a lot of issues with pork. Yes. So yes, well, I'm having some issues with that. I'm trying to work through it. I'm doing some studying, some research.
Bacon's the only thing I'd miss.
I know.
'Cause I'm not a fan of ham or any of that stuff.
I love bacon.
I don't like baby back ribs or.
But I go, there's probably a reason why God told us not to eat it. Like, it's not a clean animal, right? So
But then later God said, eat it. So in the New
people debate
Testament,
that.
he said, eat this.
Yeah.
Remember that dream Peter's having, and God puts all the animals, and he says, this is unclean, and God says, don't call anything I created unclean.
Yeah.
So, anyways, you can't call them unclean.
Well, it is not a clean
But
animal. I'm just telling you. It's
I mean,
still
we're
not
not going to eat cockroaches and spiders and snakes either.
right. So
Someone yesterday asked me if I've had shark meat.
is that a normal thing?
But she had shark meat. And
Interesting.
she said it's good.
I've had ostrich. That's the weirdest thing I've ever had.
Huh. I've had snails.
Have you had alligator?
Escargot, I had it in Paris. It was good. No, I haven't had alligator, but we bought a can of it and gave it to someone as a
we
gift,
did.
remember?
What's the weirdest thing you've eaten, Sean? And we
Sean
actually
is
eat
smart.
steak tartare a lot.
Yeah.
We eat like a
Raw meat.
yeah, a German version of that. So raw, uncooked pork, lamb, beef, and wild game. Be cautious of that. Raw fish, undercooked, freshwater, marine fish, including dried and smoked fish. So we're talking about sushi and, smoked salmon.
That's why you have to have ginger with sushi.
Right, to disinfect the digestive tract. Raw and undercooked crustaceans or mollusks.
And when you eat beef, you should eat onions. Onions with beef help.
Raw aquatic plants like watercress, fruits and vegetables. Raw fruits and vegetables may contain tapeworms, unpasteurized milk or cider, drinking water. Here, poor hygiene. Of course, we know, like not washing your hands. Here's another thing I hadn't thought about: swimming in contaminated water. So we have a lot of lakes here.
Yeah.
We have a lake that's actually pretty warm. I worry about that one. And I go, I wonder what's living in there. I don't know. So just be cautious. Like you could get parasites from any of these things.
It almost sounds like it's not possible not to get a parasite.
That's what I'm saying.
But keep in mind, so some people are going to be freaking out right now, just like you. And what you have to understand is, God knows what you're going to get exposed to.
Right.
And God has put in your body defense mechanisms.
100%.
And so you do have an immune system that can kill these things and get rid of them. Fred Barge was a chiropractor. He's passed away since. He used to explain it like this. He'd say, where there's a carcass, like a roadkill, what shows up is vultures. No one's ever going to say the vulture killed the animal. Everyone knows vultures show up when there's a dead carcass in there, and the vultures actually help clean it up because they eat that stuff. Now, but when we look at someone's throat that has overgrowth of strep,
Right.
streptococcus, and we go, oh, the strep must have caused the disease. He says the truth is this person's tissue became weak and allowed the overgrowth of the strep So the overgrowth of the strep is not causing the disease, it's the result of the disease. It's because the immune system tanked. And that's the case with maybe parasites as well. Because based on what you just read,
Yes.
we are constantly exposed to parasites every day. Even
Correct.
if we live in America and we wash our hands and everything else
Doesn't
and
matter.
our fruit and vegetables all the time, we still get exposed to it. But the nice thing is, if you're healthy, you should be able to get rid of it.
Right. But here's the issue. We all know that while we are a developed country, we are also one of the sickest in the world, right? We are not our clean sanitation, our sanitation habits, while they've gotten better, our health has tanked. And why? Because we are inundated with our fast food, our highly processed food, our terrible water, all the fluoride that
Sugar
we're inundated
addiction.
with, our sugar, our high fructose corn syrup, our food dyes. I mean, for the love of Pete, how are our bodies supposed to deal with things like parasites?
We're definitely stressed. Yeah. So
Right?
exactly, which is why maybe because the one thing that article last week did say was that when you take the ivermectin, it made the chemotherapy work better.
Right.
So and remember how you just said in the old days they used to do the deworming first because they knew their treatments would work better if there were no parasites in the body.
Right.
And maybe all it's doing is taking that load off the body so the body's own immune system can work better, and then the immune system goes and kills the cancer.
That's
my just
theory.
a theory, yeah. So don't take that to the bank, but it just makes sense.
It makes sense. And I just want to say that the body was built in a fashion that actually makes sense. So if we just look at how the body processes and look at it logically, right? Not hard to do. And you start thinking about some of these things, it will make sense. Now, does that mean it's 100% correct? No, but it makes more sense than some of their theories. I will tell you that. So, so I have an article kind of to follow that, and I'm not going to read the entire thing because we went into some good depth there. And plus there's a lot of words that you're going to have to pronounce, but,
Thanks.
You're welcome. But this was actually, an article from GI Health. And it was actually done originally back in March 15th of 2024. And it was just updated January 21st of 2025. Here it says parasite infections are more common in the United States than you may think. According to the CDC, millions of Americans are infested with parasites.
Infected.
Okay, so that's from the CDC. The CDC says millions of Americans are infected with parasites. But yet nobody talks about it. Living with a parasite infection can be challenging, with symptoms like digestive issues, fatigue making everyday life difficult. Many people are exploring natural options to help support their body's natural defense, because we have one, against these unwelcome invaders. So here, then it starts to talk about the different types of parasites, what a parasite is. It's an organism that lives on or inside another organism, the host to derive nutrients from that.
By the way, the article is written by a naturopathic physician.
Yes, which is important, because they're going through and they're talking about more natural things outside of some of the anti-parasitic medications that you can do. So a
naturopath studies everything that medical doctors study. But their goal is to treat it all with herbs, oils, nutrition, things like that, non-drugs. So that's it. But they actually study everything the same as a medical doctor.
Yes. So they talk about, the types of common parasites. They just what we talked about. He then goes and talks about the different routes: contaminated food, water, insect bites. That's one that we didn't talk about, and infected animals or their feces. Talks about the common symptoms. Again, the same: diarrhea, abdominal pain, cramping, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, muscle aches, fever, swollen lymph nodes, itching, rashes. Chronic ones, chronic parasite infections, if they're left to their own demise here, you're looking at chronic diarrhea, malnutrition due to nutrient absorption issues, dehydration, anemia from blood loss, damage to organs such as liver, intestines, and brain, increased susceptibility to other infections. Severe cases lead to death. So, and then he starts talking a little bit about parasite cleanses. And this is why I pulled this, because another article was talking about, oh, are these parasite cleanses healthy? Are they safe? And the entire article says there hasn't been enough studies done. Okay. I just want to say that these herbs, while I am not saying everyone needs to go and get on the first herb, you have to be cautious because there are contraindications. And unfortunately, majority of our communities are on not just one pharmaceutical, but multiple pharmaceuticals, which have their own issues with contraindications within themselves, let alone adding an herb into it. So if you're on multiple pharmaceuticals, you need to do your due diligence before you go into using any kind of herbal supplement. But what miffs me the most is that they keep saying not enough study has been done. Here's the reality. Not enough study have been done on your pharmaceuticals. It's not the other way around. Your current scientists may not have done enough studies on herbal supplements, but the reality is they've been around for centuries. They've been used for centuries by individuals successfully. So it's not that there's not enough research. It's just our current scientists either aren't willing to look at the research that has already been done, or they're not doing new research. But it's the pharmaceuticals that have the issue with research. It's
no
not
one did research on appendectomies, but we know they save lives.
100%.
But there's no research that says appendectomies are valid and important and viable and all that stuff.
Right.
So you got to be careful with that phrase. Research hasn't been done.
Yeah, it's just ugh. So it talks a little bit about some of the different supplements that can help support parasite management. So, and I'm going to mention some of these real quick, and I would recommend that you guys go through and do your research. See if there's any of these that that you think would be helpful for you. You may be surprised. The first one that's recommended that can be helpful in supporting parasite management is black walnut. The active compound in black walnut hulls is juglone. Is that correct?
I have no idea.
A natural organic compound with strong antimicrobial effects. So this, the evidence.
Do you know what a black walnut is? Is it like that's?
It's a special kind of walnut.
Have you seen one?
Have you?
No.
Well, it's a supplement, so I'm assuming that you can order that supplement, a black walnut.
Yeah.
It's already been. I don't think you
Interesting.
eat it just as a natural in its natural form, but because you probably need higher doses of the oils that come from that nut is my assumption.
Right.
So they actually say, if I'm pronouncing it right, juglone exerts its effects by generating reactive oxygen species, ROS, within cells. The ROS is highly reactive molecules that can affect cellular components such as DNA, proteins, and lipids. So it basically supports the body's natural defense against bacterial, viral, fungal, and parasitic challenges. Wormwood is another supplement or herb. Wormwood is renowned for its potential in supports the body's natural process in managing parasitic challenges and has been utilized for centuries. Its effects are attributed to a compound in the plant called thujone. So another one that's a little bit harder.
THUJONE.
Animal studies have shown that wormwood supports the body's natural defense against tapeworms. Similarly, praziquantel, an anti-parasitic pharmaceutical medication. So it works similarly to that. Clinical studies suggest that the clinical results are the same in humans as in animals. So they say, for example, 500 milligram capsules administered 3 times a day for 15 weeks supported the body's natural process in managing the parasites in 70% of patients. That's a pretty good outcome. Clove harbors properties primarily attributed to its high, is that eugenol content. This is believed to support the body's natural process in managing parasites by interfering with the cellular membranes and metabolic processes, ultimately inhibiting the growth and reproduction of the parasites. Additionally, it's been shown to prevent the hatching of parasite eggs, further supporting the body's natural defenses. Oregano oil. Man, we've used oregano oil for a long time.
I believe in oregano big time. Oregano
Yeah.
is great antiviral.
Antimicrobial.
It is wonderful. It'll pierce a hole through your tongue if you put it on your tongue directly. It's
Yeah.
sharp. It's spicy.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff.
I believe it kills vampires too.
I think so. As does garlic, and garlic is another.
Yeah, but I think they got that wrong. I think it's oregano oil that kills vampires.
Okay, maybe.
They wanted to hide that from us.
Well, vampires are a type of parasite.
That's true.
So garlic and oregano.
Might as well
actually
do
work.
both just to be safe. If you know vampires around, you know.
Yep. The active compound in garlic is allicin. Is that right? Along with other sulfur-containing compounds. It exhibits antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral properties that support the body's natural defense. In vitro, garlic oil disrupts essential parasitic metabolic processes. So it really messes with parasites, which is pretty cool. So these are just some of the herbs that this naturopath recommends. I don't want to beat parasites to beat it to death, so to speak, but there's a lot of things that you can be doing regularly. I think that we should get checked, or we should do a deworming. So that's what we're going to be getting ready to do.
Woohoo!
So just be ready to see those little guys in the toilet again, but don't tell
I
me
don't think
about
I
it.
have any left.
Okay, good.
We'll see. We'll find out. All right. So we got a short one here. This one is from the Washington Post. Hunger and pregnancy complications go hand in hand, study finds. The reasons for the higher complications rate are unclear. Less healthy diets, inconsistent eating habits, and the stress of worrying about food could play a role. Who stresses about food in America? Do people stress about food? Am I going to have enough food? It says those who go hungry or worry about getting food while pregnant are at higher risk of complications such as preeclampsia and gestational diabetes, a new analysis suggests. The paper published in JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, used data from an online health survey of more than 19,300 pregnant Kaiser Permanente Northern California members between June 2020 and September 2022. Northern California had this many pregnancies, quite a bit. That's a lot of kids. Researchers did not find just at Kaiser Permanente is that amazing. Researchers did not find similar risks among those who received food assistance while pregnant. Participants were screened for food insecurity with questions about whether they had run out of food or worried about running out of food because of money while they were pregnant. 14% of the participants, about 2,700, said they had experienced food insecurity during their pregnancy, and 7.6% to 1,470 of them said they received food assistance while pregnant. The analysis found that food insecure participants had a higher rate of gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, and other complications, including preterm birth and neonatal ICU admission. Gestational hypertension and cesarean delivery were not associated with food insecurity. So basically, when you worry about food, you get sick. If you're pregnant, is what the study finds.
I bet you if you did another study and they worried about anything.
Well, yeah, and I'll talk about that. You know, the Dutch famine study showed that women who were starved during the first trimester of pregnancy had healthy babies,
Right.
healthier babies, and perfect birth weight. It says, by contrast, those who said they received food assistance did not experience the same rate of complication. The reason for the higher complication rate are unclear. The researchers write, less healthy diets, inconsistent eating habits, and the stress of worrying about food could play a role. Could. I mean, obviously it does. It said unhealthy, less healthy diets could play a role.
How about
I mean,
it does?
Does play a role. Thank you very much. Washington Post, get that right. The majority of participants who said they received food aid got benefits from the grant-based special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children, commonly known as WIC. The program served 6.31 million pregnant and postpartum people, infants, and children in 2022, according to the U.S. Agriculture Department. The researchers recommended better screening for food insecurity in pregnancy and policies that ensure food assistance funding and availability. You know what? Don't worry. That's it. Don't worry. You can worry yourself sick, so unworry yourself healthy.
Yep.
That's a quote. If you can worry yourself sick, you can unworry yourself healthy. Do you know, I personally believe the main reason women get breast cancer is because they worry about their kids. Think about it. When the baby's born, baby cries, mom gets distressed, and they start producing milk, right? Your breasts literally get filled. You produce milk at the time of nursing, not before. Some before, but most of it happens when you hear the baby cry. And so like there's women at work, their baby isn't even there, but they hear like a baby crying on a radio or TV, and they start to produce milk because their brain sends a signal to the breast. But when they're older, they're 50, 60 years old, those breasts aren't producing milk anymore.
Right.
The mammary glands are not working anymore.
Right.
They worry about
The
their kid.
signal.
The kid gets in a car accident, or the kid, gets arrested, or something bad happens to their kid. They're getting bullied, whatever it is. The brain goes, oh, when my kid was distressed before, I used to just send a signal and we'd produce milk and the baby would stop crying. Let's do that again. And it starts sending signals through nerves to the breast saying, produce milk. The breast can't do it. So they start proliferating cells and leads to breast cancer. You can worry yourself sick. There's a worry cause to almost every disease, I promise you.
Yeah. There's such a, we have to remember that there's such a mind-body connection that it's part of the thing that has been taken out of medicine. And that's, I think, what has led us to not as great of outcomes as well, is because we keep trying to separate that. We talked a long time ago about when women have C-sections. I believe the body interprets that I had to have C-sections. Otherwise, the babies and I may not have lived. So while there may be a medical reason for that, and it
I thought
creates...
you said that babies would still be in there right now.
No, definitely not. They would have been evicted by now. But there's when a woman has a C-section, that takes us outside of the normal birthing process, and then our body, while our mind may understand that the baby is still out and came out and is fine, the body has been through this trauma where the baby has literally been ripped from the body. And then all of those normal processes that the body gets to go through to actually, for lack of a better term, excrete the baby itself. There are certain things that are done. And when your body can't go through that process, then it's almost like the baby was taken.
Makes sense.
And I think if we did the studies, we may find a very common link between a higher number of women with postpartum depression linked to C-section deliveries versus natural deliveries.
Especially if they don't go into labor, then have a C-section.
Correct.
When they schedule a C-section.
Correct.
As opposed to waiting and letting the mom go into labor, produce the hormones and chemicals, then decide, okay, we definitely should do a C-section. When you schedule that C-section on 39 weeks going, hey, the baby's going to get too big, it's going to be difficult, let's just schedule it. And that's when you're at risk as those things. Now, I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl was yesterday. And but we're recording this prior to the Super Bowl, so we don't know who won because we haven't watched it yet. But you guys have seen it, and so we had an article we were going to talk about Pat Mahomes and his dad bod, because apparently he has a lot of fat around his navel, and then talks about other athletes and how to assess athletic performance. I don't know if we'll really do that. I mean, if it's going to be 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, it's probably not really worth it.
Right.
But if you guys want to hear what the article talks about, some of it was fun.
Yeah.
Some was interesting to read. So, we'll think about sharing that with you. We may do some analysis on toothpaste ingredients next time and so on. But I think today was useful talking about worms and parasites and,
I didn't even tell my flashlight parasite story.
Ooh.
We'll do that maybe another time.
Okay. There you go. Tune in next time. Take care. Bless you. Thank you for joining us.
See you next time. Bye.
This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.